If it's your first time joining us, take a look inside our villa and explore our previous videos at the top right. Welcome back! I'm so excited to show you all the work that's happened this week at the villa. Okay, so this is the reality. We were supposed to have our final plans confirmed so that the construction workers could start knocking down walls. Unfortunately, that didn't happen this week. We are still awaiting quotes to come in and for those final plans to be confirmed so that they can go ahead and start that work. I'm learning through this process. This is my first renovation that I have to be a lot more assertive with the work that gets done here. I need to hold people accountable for the dates that they say that they're gonna get something done. Otherwise, things won't get done in a timely manner around here. So with that said, let's take a look at what has gotten done this week. We think it was the best decision to live in the villa in order to learn about its quirks. We knew it was going to be quite the adjustment after being so comfortable in our rental apartment, but we needed to live in it to get familiar with the layout and help us make informed decisions.
Check out those Crocs, huh? Get it, Rob.
Sometimes it feels as if we're camping in our own villa. It might seem small, but it was such a lifesaver that Livio was able to pop by this week to install our washer and dryer. We had gone without a washer for a couple of weeks, and I was resorting to hand washing our essentials in a tub in our temporary shower. Looking over the villa's plans is quite different from actually living in it. We have to realize that the villa has been abandoned since the 1990s, and it needs a lot of maintenance in order to bring it back to life. Last week, it poured with rain for 3 days, and whenever it rained, all of the water from the roof was draining at the front of the villa and hitting the front balcony, which was causing the large balcony to erode and for water to destroy the front door and eventually make its way into the entrance. Livio also installed a tube to connect to the old rain gutter so that the water can drain away from the balcony and not crash down at the front door. Slowly but surely, we're getting there. I'd love for everything to be done immediately and to start crossing things off my list left and right, but the reality is I need to be patient and realize that it takes time for these things to get done. Since construction was halted this week until we have final plans for the bathroom, I decided to focus on DIY projects that even I could handle. We headed to our local DIY store and got some important things that we needed for the villa. We found that the location in Pisa, about 30 minutes away, had far better prices than our local store that was only 15 minutes driving distance. We originally came to gather supplies for my DIY door refinishing project and ended up looking at shop vacs, a pressure washer, and the list goes on. Before we knew it, the cart was full. In total, we did just under 700 euros in damage, but we know these things will get plenty of use. I wanted to take on a project that I think I can accomplish. I'm gonna hold myself to that, but also give myself room to breathe. So the idea is to refinish these doors, sand them down, and fix them up, patch them up where they need to get patched up, then refinish them so that the woods match each other and seal them up. Change out the hardware. My timeline for this project is going to be till the end of the year. I think I can get all of the internal doors done before the end of the year, let's say Christmas time, but I already got all of my supplies, so I have an automatic sander that will definitely help speed up the process. I've never done anything like this before, but I've seen my dad refinish our wood front door several times, so I know the process is lengthy and it is a little backbreaking, but I'm up for it. Instead of having to pay somebody to refinish all of the internal doors, I think that it's something that I can take on. I'm by no means any pro. This is gonna be really my first DIY project for the villa that is gonna live here, and it's gonna be for all to witness. But if you have any tips, please go ahead and put them below in the comments and let me know. That is much appreciated because I am a little scared. I feel like the doors that you order today are nothing like this quality. They are pretty solid and they're really amazing. So the last thing I want to do is screw up these doors and look at them every day. Or worse, do all of this work and then have to pay somebody to fix my mistakes. So the goal is, I'm gonna start with this door. Let's take it one door at a time and see how far I can get. We're gonna head over to the garden center right now and get some pots and have a look around to get some garden inspiration because we really want to make over our garden.
We have about half an acre of private gardens surrounding the entire villa. We immediately border the forest since our closest neighbors are across the street from us. Luckily, we have walls around the entire property that helps to give us privacy and also keeps the surrounding forest from merging and taking over the garden. Seeing the flowers in full bloom was amazing, but I wanted to stay focused on getting inspiration for foliage plants that will help to give the garden interesting texture and variation. I was really drawn to the unique and unusual looking plants. There was something almost prehistoric about this plant that gave me Jurassic Park vibes. This begonia was so unusual and had an amazing texture. I could definitely see us using it in our garden space to give variation. There was honestly so much to look at, and it could be overwhelming at times, but I stayed focused and grabbed some terracotta vases to replant some of the abandoned succulents that are in broken pots. Our poor, sad, abandoned succulents needed a little bit of love. They were riddled with weeds everywhere. I quickly got to work, and of course Rooney joined me. I carefully took all of the succulents apart and repotted them. In the end, I think they turned out really nice, and I hope they'll be a lot happier in their new pots.
We honestly don't know what we're working with in terms of layout of the garden or the paths that already exist there and are paved out until we deal with this overgrowth. From what we understand from the original owner's son, his father would come by every weekend even though he didn't live here in order to maintain the garden and keep it up. This was really his passion project, and you could see that in the photos that existed before. Unfortunately, once he passed away in 1990, the garden became totally overgrown and unmanaged.
This was the West Side Garden in 1996. You can clearly see that the majority of the section was paved with stone and was well maintained.
We had our gardener Roland drop by last week to do a first assessment of the garden. I really wish that you could have seen his face when he entered the gate. He was completely blown away by the amount of overgrowth that we had. He recommended that we focus on sections of the garden and clearing those out first before we start thinking about changing the layout and putting in plants that we like ourselves. It's important to see what you have before you start adding to it. Everyone is really shocked by the sheer amount of overgrowth that exists right now. But we're hoping that this week we can really cut back on at least a big piece of it in the front. Right here, you can see that there's a bunch of pine trees that have grown here. These weren't planted here at all. This is all nature's doing. They were naturally seeded, took to the ground, and took over this whole entire space here. We're surrounded by the forest on two sides, so we have walls delineating our property completely around. Otherwise, I think the forest would have completely taken over this entire garden. We need to cut this back, figure out what it is that we have, and then we'll be able to better maintain the space and understand what we're gonna do with the garden. I think step one is definitely cleaning up everything. Then we'll have an assessment and look at what we have.
We also had somebody come by to make an assessment of the dead trees we need to cut as soon as possible. We're afraid that a few can come crashing down any day now when we have strong enough winds. Here in Italy, even though you own your property, you can't just cut down the trees that exist on your property. You have to make a special request and pay a fee that can take up to 30 days so that you can remove the trees. Roland came by bright and early Sunday morning to start working on cleaning up the garden. This work will have to be done in phases and sections since we have so much overgrowth, but Roland thinks by June we will have it cleared out and we can begin to plan to fill in any void areas. Tune in next week to see the transformation and hopefully some work inside the house. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the notification bell to find out what unfolds next week.